empower women, particularly those from marginalized communities. So, Amina, come on up. You have the floor.
Hello. So I just wanted to also include a land acknowledgement around our kind of duty for allyship. I think it's an important time, especially during Black History Month, to also acknowledge the relationship between our struggles. So I really, we begin by acknowledging the land on which we are meeting, Takaranto, Mohawk word meaning where there are trees and water, and all the traditional territories of the Huron, the Wendat, the Seneca, the Petun, the Mississaugas, and the Credit. This territory is covered by the District Responsible Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the land and resources around the Great Lakes. It is essential to recognize that Black liberation cannot exist without decolonization. Our struggles are deeply connected and shaped by systemic oppression, colonial violence, and white supremacy. While Canada is often described as a cultural mosaic, the reality is a cultural hierarchy where Indigenous peoples have been systemically placed at the bottom. As immigrants, whether through forced or voluntary migration, we must acknowledge our complicity as settlers and confront the fact that our bodies hold more value on this land and are used as tools within this colonial project. Even as African, Caribbean, and Black people face disenfranchisement and systemic oppression, we must not ignore how Indigenous communities disproportionately bear the weight of that and endure the lasting effects of intergenerational trauma, scapegoating, socioeconomic exclusion, and are overly represented in the Canadian prison system. It's our duty as allies and newcomers to this land to continue to educate ourselves and loved ones about the experiences of Indigenous people in Canada and the long-lasting effects of residential schooling and colonization, and honor their stewardship. Thank you.
Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. This proverb speaks to the importance of who tells the story. Historically, we know that narratives have often been shaped by those in power, and this saying reminds us that unless the oppressed or marginalized tell their own stories, history will always favor those who dominate. So with that being said, I will have Patrick, who is the ED from APAA, come up and speak. Hold the applause. So he's been in the sector for over 30 years, and in fact, he is the founder of APAA. And he's dedicated his life to the continued efforts and support for members of the African community, Black and Caribbean communities, in response to the increased need for those who need support, especially living with HIV/AIDS. Outside of work, you can find him spending time with his family, going to the gym, and watching CNN. Yes. Patrick, you have the floor.
Hey, month, Black History. I am black, as you can tell. Look at my shirt is black. I'm black, it's black, I'm black. Yeah, but it's not about Patrick. We're here today for a reason. So good afternoon. It's an honor to stand before you today as we gather in recognition of Black History Month, a time when we celebrate the remarkable achievements and contributions and resilience of Black individuals throughout history. We take this opportunity to reflect on the legacy of those who came before us and to recount ourselves to the continued work of uplifting our communities. As we observe this important month, I am reminded of the incredible strength, innovation, and courage that have always been part of our African heritage. From the historical resistance against oppression, which you talked about, to the leaders and pioneers who have shaped this course of history, Black people have always stood in the forefront of social change. But even as we celebrate this milestone, we must also acknowledge the challenges that persist, that continue to impact the health and well-being and futures of countless vulnerable individuals within our community. One of the greatest challenges, and one that remains deeply tied to our mission at APAA, is the fight against HIV/AIDS. For decades, the African diaspora has experienced a disproportionate burden from HIV/AIDS, both in Africa and across the globe. It is a burden that has impacted families, communities, and futures. APAA, we are committed in combating the crisis through education, advocacy, and support. Our work is rooted in the belief that health care is a human right, and no one should be left to fight against HIV/AIDS alone. As we honor Black History Month, we cannot forget that this is not just about statistics and medical achievements. It's about people, our brothers, sisters, parents, and children. It's about dignity, hope, and ensuring that every person living with HIV/AIDS is empowered with the tools to live a full and healthy life. This month also reminds me that health is political. The system of inequality that continue to affect our communities, whether in access to health care, economic opportunity, don't forget the tariff just came today, economic opportunity, or education, are part of the broader context that impacts our collective ability to thrive in our work. We advocate for equitable access to treatment, prevention, and care. We fight for the voices of marginalized populations, those who have often been silenced or ignored. We stand in solidarity with our communities and work tirelessly to break down barriers that prevent access to life-saving resources. But we also know that our journey is not of a single struggle. Black communities across the globe have always been resilient, resourceful, and creative in the face of adversity. Our ancestors have passed down wisdom and fortitude, teaching us that no matter what the challenge is, we have power to create change. As we continue our work in the fight against HIV/AIDS, we draw strength from our history and from the ongoing movement for racial justice. We stand on the shoulders of giants, those who have fought civil rights, those who have pushed for healthcare reform, and those who have advocated the global solidarity. I urge us all to remember that our fight against HIV/AIDS is not just a fight for medical treatment. It's a fight for equity, dignity, and right for every person that's living without stigma, fear, or shame. It is a fight to ensure that Black communities everywhere continue to thrive, but not only today, but for generations to come. Let us honor Black History Month by rededicating ourselves to the work that remains. Let us continue to break down barriers. Let us support one another, uplift one another, and work toward the future with health and opportunity, and not determined by nice geography or circumstances. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to this issue. Together we can continue to make history. Together we create a future that is higher and brighter and healthier. And more of all, good afternoon.
Also known as ACB communities, who shared stories, struggle, views, and successes. The history of Black people started thousands of years ago in Africa and modern-day Canada we know today. And why is this topic important, and what changes do we want to make? So how it got started, colonization. History has shown that most Black people in Canada immigrated from the United States. The American Revolution and War in 1812, as well as the Underground Railroad, contribute to Black history in Canada. Those who were fleeing slavery in the United States used the North Star as a guide to Canada on the Underground Railroad. In historical times, few African-descended Canadians were born in Canada. ACB, which stands for African, Caribbean, and Black, is another term for Black Canadian. The first immigrants came to Canada from the West Indies or New England between 1763 and 1900. Manitoba. Black Loyalists settled in several small towns and villages between Windsor and Toronto. Black slaves helped Loyalists establish the eastern townships between the St. Lawrence River and the border. The free Black Loyalists brought other Black people to British North America. In 1796, Maroons from Jamaica were banished to Nova Scotia. Black slaves escaped Jamaica's Spanish and later British overlords to become the Maroons. Maroons are both feared and admired for their bravery. Thousands of Maroons arrived in West Africa from Nova Scotia around 1800. History of Black people in Canada. So in 1784, Black Loyalists arrived in Nova Scotia. The impact: Black people continued to be discriminated against by white folk after British promised them freedom. Labor conflicts led to Canada's first race riot among the poor whites and Black communities. Although Black people were labeled free, they still experienced racism and were looked down upon by white people. Hostility, racism before Black people still remained. Before 1900, Black people in Canada were largely underprivileged. Black Loyalists, Maroons, and refugees were faced with many challenges in the Maritimes. Despite the fertile land gifts, they could not achieve agricultural self-sufficiency. White towns were a source of abuse and discrimination against Black Canadians seeking work. Lower-skilled Black laborers worked in shops or on farms. Black Canadians were mainly employed or underpaid or low-skilled positions. These are some historical photos back in the day. So this is from ACB member. This is what we need to acknowledge in Canada. We, the ACB community, don't want people telling us our experience was mild. What we experienced or said it was a long time ago. Get over it, because the enslaved people had food or shelter, or whatever have you. What we're talking about within these Canadian colonies, enslaved Africans who had all kinds of violence committed upon their bodies. The Ontario Black History Society, OBHS, was founded in 1978. They requested the City of Toronto to have February formally declared as Black History Month. Toronto, that issued the first Canadian announcement in 1979, observed first in 1988. Can you believe that gap? African Heritage Month in Nova Scotia was renamed in 1996. Right, the year just before I was born. Can you believe that? So defining ACB and Black unity, people from Africa, which is the second largest and second most numerous continent in the world. Some Caribbean and West Indian residents with African ancestry may or may not be comfortable with you calling them African. Therefore, it is best to ask them how they would like to be known. And this is just a quote from someone in the community. They have said that some people would rather just be identified as Black Canadian. Many Black Canadians live or came from Upper Canada, East Coast of Canada, example Nova Scotia, St. Lawrence River and border. Their history is linked to the Underground Railroad. If not always carded me, it happens in any neighborhood at any time of the day or night. Alone or with friends. These interactions no longer scare me, they irritate me. My city has become a prison because that unwanted inquiry and discriminatory surveillance. Police have killed 30 people in Canada in the first half of 2020, which is full year average over the last 10 years, with the deadliest year was 2016 when 40 people were killed. It's based on CBC researchers' Deadly Force database. The database shows that Black and Indigenous people are overrepresented among the victims. In addition, most of these killed in these police encounters suffer from mental illnesses or substance abuse. Stigma, discrimination, and unconscious bias. Slavery's legacy continues to impact Black Canadians today. In Canada, Black people are represented in the criminal justice and child welfare system. Black Canadians experience anti-black racism, subtle racism, police brutality, and violence against them throughout all systems. ACB members are hyper-aware of the intersectionality and others. Black Canadians remain highly resilient, optimistic, and hopeful. Members of the ACB community believe we must be resilient and act as if everything is in order to survive. And there's a video I want to show you guys. It's basically about the criminalization of HIV and substance use, social justice and criminal justice system that's going on right now and today. So just to start, substance use can create further barriers and stigma in accessing services to healthcare. This can make it easier for HIV to spread, and as support providers, we must reduce ACB clients' barriers to care and strengthen the social determinants of health. And this is the video here. It is 6 minutes long.
Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can, when I can, when I can for people.
Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom?
Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through my waters. You know I gotta make up mine. Take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping
Who is the black woman on the $10 bill? I've brought an example as well. Okay, Sato, I saw you first. You are correct. Thank you. So you get a prize. I think we'll just, because there's a lot of people, we'll just come out at the end, collect your prize.
Can you say the answer, please?
It's Viola Desmond. Who? This one's a little tricky. I feel like this might be what stopped people up a little bit. Who was the first black person to be elected to the Canadian Parliament? I'm like, I was a draw between George and Chance. But... Okay. Okay, Chance, you go first.
No, go ahead.
You know what? You guys
Okay,
can share
she
this.
does you.
I promise it's shareable.
It's Michelle something or another. She's reluctant to get my camera for that.
Unfortunately, you are not correct. Chance.
Lincoln Alexander.
Chance, congratulations. Okay, our next one. Which province was the historic Africville located in? George, I think you may have
Nova
gotten that
Scotia.
one. George, you are correct. Alright, our next one. It's not who is I. Where is Bob Marley's Way? And I want a specific answer.
In Toronto.
It's a street.
In Toronto, right?
Oh, my dear.
Kingston.
Yes, you are correct. Thank you for knowing exactly where. I was going to point to my shirt and say it's kind of obvious, but. All right. Who was the first black president of South Africa? Centra got it. It is, in fact.
Bandera.
All right. should be talking about American president. I'm so sorry, but it's an easy one. Who was the first?
Somebody else pick that question.
Yes, once you have gotten one, you're
Yes,
not
you're
allowed to
way
go
too
again.
Okay.
Who was the first black president of America?
There's only been one.
Yes, my dear.
Barack Obama.
You are indeed correct. Wish you were.
First.
All right. Which African American woman refused to give up her seat on the bus, helping spark the civil rights movements? Yes, my dear, you are correct. All right. Now this next one, I don't know if anyone's gonna get it. Who wrote the "I Have a Dream" speech? Who said the "I"?
Martin Luther King?
You're not allowed to go yet. I heard somebody yelling. Wait. Okay. You know what? I've already forgotten who won, so everybody's you're gonna have to fight for the prize. Yes, Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you. And then this is our last one. Who was the first black MLB player?
Can I participate?
Yes, of course.
Will I win a prize?
Yes, you will, Trevor.
Jackie Robinson.
Yes! You know why?
Thank you, everyone.
Month is not just about reflection, it is about action. And it's also about ensuring that the Lions' voices are heard and amplified as we did here today. To close off our event, I would like to share a spoken word poem that I wrote a few years ago. Just a trigger warning, there are themes of war and violence, so if that's something that will trigger you, please step out and take care of yourself. Okay, it's been a while. So this poem is titled, "A Place I've Never Met But Refuse to Forget." In this new land, the opportunities are vast. In this new land, my dreams come true at last. Indeed, this is true. But what happens when you get sidetracked and the dream ceases to exist? When you're boxed in this little room where the window for hope ceases to exist? When the talk gets going, where will I be tomorrow? These things are not meant for the knowing. The normality of everyday life always amused me. Her laughter was a cushion that protected the neighborhood, where her boys would travel long distances to see her smile and sweet embrace. But what happens when her boys are ripped apart from her arms and evacuated? The old white lie, dolce et decorum est pro patria mori. It is sweet and honorable to die for your country. Soldier 1, Muhammad, age 13. Soldier 2, Khalid, age 15. You see, they'd respond to you if you called their names, despite seeing them armed, fully loaded, unlike their bare stomachs, delirious with yesterday's hunger. Dismembered limbs, a torn identity, a failed state, they say, failed to protect, honor, and uphold. Failed to protect, honor, and uphold the dignity of our own. Failed to respect and punish the hungry with neglect. Created lines, prejudice to our own. Home is where the heart is. Somali Toso. Hurrying with a bag and a dream, quick and desperate to leave. Family separated. My son, my daughter, I will be back. I just need to make a few dollars, and soon you'll join me. I promise you will be back. For many of us, we know home is where you are at the moment, a temporary displacement of an entire nation. I like to stand here and talk about my homeland, about how the trees give you shade and how the ocean is inviting, but even these words can't begin to capture the beauty once known as a paradise on earth, my beloved. But I can't tell you everything. I have yet to make my way back home. My account of this nation comes through my parents' eyes, through this different point of view. I'm able to see, smell, taste the breeze and the culture along Mogadishu's coastal beach. Stand tall with camels and play with the nomadic teens. Now see the bullet holes that tore down our buildings, the rundown streets where warlords run it by guns and filled it with anger, where they put fear in their hearts, volatile, inhumane, and yet they still choose to maim innocent youth screaming, have you all gone insane? Where the mothers convene and pray for their children as they sell their spices in the nearby marketplace, indifferent to the bullets flying over them, praying for the bullets to end, praying to overcome the longest nightmare. Yet the nightmare continues, picking up momentum day after day, night after night. All we know is this bloody fight. Shards flying into the air indiscriminately enter the wombs of their mothers. Yusra and Mariam's sisters are told You've no reason to dream, forget getting an education, but not too young to marry. Refusal won't suffice, with the title of shame hovering over them as shade. Blackmail, their femininity reduced to fragments. When soldiers came and violated them, they knew it was better to keep quiet. Here, rape is better kept quiet. When they thought to report it, they knew they'd face punishment, as though their ordeal was not cruel enough. Shame does not belong to them, dishonor will not follow them. Sidelined and continuously marginalized, the youth demand attention, and yet we say, what do they know? Just little humans, as large, with dreams as large as the universe, ideas contagious, tongue dipped in gold, words sweeter than a sword, yet we still diminish, just skin and bones, features and complexions of a deeper tone. Longing to see the day the dust settles fills me with joy. You see, these are the fragmented images of me, disconnected at times from my own reality. In 20 years, what will the history book say about me? That feeling leaves a bitter and uncertain jitter. To know war is to fight for peace, to see death is to fight for love. A generation lost to a nation crippled by tribalism, blinded with animosity. A youth population forced to pick up a gun because they were robbed from picking up a pen. Painting the empty cities red, blood spilt when they could have painted endless pages of a sketchbook, unapologetically blood spilt when they could have loved you and me. A generation screams to be heard, falling behind in echoes of despair. Have you, world, forgotten about us? Have you, fellow humans, refused to listen to us? You see, these are the fragmented pieces of me. You see, these are our stories projected far and wide across the seas. I come from this place, a place I've never met but refuse to forget. Thank you.
Yeah.